In this video, we are going to be measuring the resistance in our spark plug wires, and so you will need a multimeter to do this. I'm also using alligator clips. They make my life a lot easier. They're super cheap. I highly recommend them. And then I'm also using a paper clip. And the reason I'm using a paper clip is that the actual terminals that we're going to be checking here are pretty deep in there. This varies from car to car, but in my case, I needed something that was long enough to get up there. So I took a paper clip and I just unwound it so that I've got a nice piece of metal out here, and I attached it to an alligator clip, and the other end of that alligator clip is connected to the actual probe on the multimeter. And I'm doing that same process on this other side. So the way you use these multimeters is I'm going to first connect our black lead, and you're going to make note of which cylinder this is because usually they're grouped together like this. I've already disconnected these wires from the distributor, so make sure to do that too if you haven't. And so we're going to go with wire 2 right here, cylinder number 2. I'm just going to connect this guy right on there like that. And then cylinder number 2 on my car is the one second farthest from the right. So it's going to be this guy right here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this guy to 20,000 because typically the resistance of these spark leads is going to be in the thousands of ohms. So if you have it set too low, it's just going to read like 1 right now. So you might think you've got infinite resistance when you don't actually. So shoot for 20,000. That's a good ballpark. To make sure this thing works, I'm just going to attach it to that guy, and we should see that thing reading a pretty low resistance, which we are. So multimeter is working. Now I'm just going to take this wire and shove it up in there. And just make sure we contact those metal parts. And now we're getting a resistance of approximately 5.62. And so on the 20K setting, what this really means is that that is 5,600 ohms. So we have 5,600 ohms of resistance on this particular wire. And so what you'll do is you'll measure this for each of your 4 cylinders. And if you measure the length of each one of these wires, the length should be directly proportional to the resistance. So if you had double the length, you would expect to have double the resistance because there's double the amount of stuff in the way between those electrons. So that's how you would interpret this stuff. And that's how you can diagnose if you have a faulty wire in here that you might need to replace. So I hope this helps. Another note I'll make is that when you move these wires, sometimes if there's cracks, due to heat or oil, in there, it can lead to, even though the wire might have one resistance when the wire is, in a certain position, if you bend the wire, it'll change that resistance. So do make sure to check for that also. But that's going to wrap things up for this video. Hope it helps. Thanks all for watching. Be well.